most people in monogamous relationships probably aren't communicating enough as it is.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that you get really good at is um so you're having these conversations all the time and you're talking not only just communicating, you're talking about emotionally sensitive things. So emotional vulnerability, emotional transparency, these things get heightened and those are the things that create intimacy. Sex alone, I would say, does not necessarily create intimacy. I think the communication piece with along with sex can create more intimacy. Now, obviously, to practice non-monogamy and especially swinging, you have to believe that casual sex is a thing. I had casual
Right.
sex before I was married. It's not that much of a stretch for me. So, like you
Right.
said, in a religious upbringing or something like that, where like you're just like, no, that's not possible. The non-monogamy would not be for you, unless
Right.
you're really open to seeing if that's something that you want to. Maybe you have a lot of beliefs from childhood that you're now questioning, and that's even one of them. But that sex alone typically does not create I'm in love with you. There's a lot.
Right.
Well, this is one of the things. Here's one of the things that we talk about in this community all the time, which is because we all came from a monogamous culture. There aren't a lot of labels for things. So there's acquaintance or friend, maybe best friend, and then there's in love or in relationship. But what non monogamy, where we operate, is in there are just many, many levels of connection between hi, how are you, and I'm in love with you. And so for those who are not going all the way to I love you, and I think this is possible with intention as well. If I'm not out trying to find people to fall in love with, so that's going to be a distinction between polyamorous and swinging people. That's not what I'm looking for. Then
Right.
I think that intention really matters as well, because I'm just looking for friends and good friends. And yes, there are many levels of connection, and non-monogamy operates in a place where it's a deep friendship and we're having sex, but it's not I'm in love with you, and it never has to be I'm in love with you. Especially swinging really embraces sex and pleasure as a part of life. It's not that sex and pleasure can only come within marriage.
Right. Well, it's so funny. As you're saying things, I'm thinking more deeply about some of my experiences, and like I can say, like, yeah, people, some casual lovers I've had, the sex have been great and it's been really connective, but it's not something that I wanted to have a relationship with,
Right.
and it wasn't a knock on them. I just felt that there was not a compatibility match for a long term relationship, but everything else was fine. And
Yeah.
in that same breath, there were romantic relationships I've had where I really liked the person, sometimes even loved the person, but the sex also was not great,
Mhm.
fine. And so it really has me thinking now, the things that you're saying, that yeah, back to the idea of living in this world of plurality, then we have to open up the idea for, maybe what we can architect our lives to become. I mean, I always say, if someone is really happy with what they're doing, if they're in a monogamous relationship and things are great and they just don't want to think about, non-monogamy or
Mhm.
whatever, I'd say great, do whatever you want. But
Right.
I really like your idea of that. Well, that you're like, okay, well, this is an option, that you can do this if you don't want to do this. Like, even the idea of, um, let's take feminism for example, saying that, like, well, you don't have to be a wife and a mother. You can do whatever you want.
Mhm.
You can
Oh,
do
what
those
choice.
things. However, you have a choice to do these do these other things. And I think that we can list a million examples like that.